I can see that we've got quite a few people here with their. We do like it when people show their videos, just creates a little bit more interaction between us. So please do turn those on if it's for you. We started ever so shortly, and we will introduce our panel as well as myself, Ben Edwards, and I'll just share my screen shortly to just give you a quick overview of what's going on. Okay, so just bear with me a moment while I share my screen for everyone. Excellent. So welcome to everyone who's joining us here for our Wellbeing in Action webinar. So this is the first webinar of its type for us. We usually do more of a delivery and interaction type, but this time we'll interact with some of our kind of clients that we work with, some of our good friends, to try and see what is being done currently in the wellbeing world, especially with us facing potentially difficult times. So what we're going to do is, I'm first going to just say a little bit about myself in case you don't know, and we will then be introduced to our four panel people, can't even get my words out, and then we will kind of kick off with some key questions. So there'll be around 4 questions in total. If you wish to get involved in some of the questioning, then please do join our paulev.com/ignitetrain999, where we will introduce some questions for you guys, and also have a space where you can input a question for the panel. You will find that you are muted and you're unable to unmute yourselves. This is just to control the session a little bit more for us. My name is Ben Edwards. I'm a trainer consultant at Ignite Training. My kind of focus is very much on well-being and mental health. So this is something that's quite close to my heart, and I do like going through content around this. So I'm really excited to hear what's going on in this space from our panel. That's pretty much it from me. I'm going to leave this open on your poll everywhere, just so you can say how your well-being has been this week, and I will show it again shortly. But what I'm going to do now, better coming up already, is just stop sharing my screen so that we can see our participants and our panel. And I'd just like to go through and ask each of you to introduce yourselves. So if I just look on my screen, Pramila, you're up first on my screen. So could you just give a little overview about who you are, who you work for, and just any general info that you wish to share?
Okay, thank you, Ben. My name is Pramila Braganza. I'm the HR director with DMG Events. We organize B2B exhibitions around the world. The bulk of our headcount is based in the UAE, and I'm very excited to spend this time with all of you and share with you experiences that we are kind of trialing at DMG, and I hope that it helps inspire us as a community to do similar things within our businesses.
Great, thank you very much for that. Huda, you're next on my list. Would you mind just giving an overview of yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Huda Al-Abbar. I'm from Dubai Silicon Oasis Authority. I work as Associate Director, People Happiness. We call our HR department as People Happiness Department. And yeah, so we are here today, as my colleague just mentioned, that to share with other people what we are doing when it comes to employees' well-being. In Dubai Silicon Oasis, we started the journey of well-being or happiness. It was like 6 years ago. So to move virtual or working remotely, it was a bit challenging, and it was like, are we gonna stop everything at this moment, or are we gonna do something? So no, we figured out there is lots of things that can be done even during working remotely.
Excellent, thank you very much, Huda. I appreciate that. Michelle, I'm moving to you next.
Is that Melissa?
Sorry, Melissa. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. Sorry, Melissa.
Yeah, don't know where Michelle is. But I'm Melissa. I'm the HR manager for Bayut.com. Thank you for the invitation. Looking forward to hearing what everyone else is doing, and obviously we can share what we're doing. I can also see a few friendly faces on this group, which I've met before and obviously got personal relationships with. Hello, Katie Barker. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Michelle Rice probably went like that then. I didn't know I was on this. So I was just looking at all the people on the screen, and because I saw the
No worries, Claire.
Good. Me too.
Hi guys, how's everyone doing this morning? My name is Mitu and I head the HR for Alabar Enterprises. We are largely F&B and retail organization based out of downtown. I'm sure some of you would have heard of our brands in the Dubai Mall, Social House, Candelicious. I'm sure they ring bells. As all of us know, F&B has been really hard hit. But more now than ever before, we realized that engagement for our staff, seated at home, seated across boundaries, across borders, is so important. And how we are doing this, I'm very, very excited to share a few tips with you over the course of the session. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone, for your introduction there. Hopefully that gives our kind of attendees a bit of an idea about who you are and who you work for, and you can see that on our posts as well, where we said what you do. So I'm just going to go back to my screen again, just to see what people are saying with regards to their own well-being for when we get started. And this will just take a moment to refresh. And then once we do that, we should see some of our answers. So we've got good, better, a struggle, the sun. I think I might have some extra content on there. So what I am just going to do is change my view, because I think it's only showing some of them. And just go to my desktop where you'll be able to see all your lovely faces. And just go here, as I think there will be some extra ones to show that might not come through initially. So great. So paulev.com/ignitetrain999 is where it is if you want to do that. I did change this before we started, so I was expecting it to come out where if people said a number of things in one go, they come out in a bit more of a structured way. So it has come out as a word cloud, but let's not worry too much about that. So enjoying the sun, maybe feeling in control, I think it's that. It's a little bit inconsistent maybe at the moment. It's a struggle. So there's quite a few things that people are saying of how their well-being is this week. So what I'm going to do first is open kind of this similar aspect out to our panel. And what I'm going to say is, well, what is well-being to your business? So if we think about the impacts that might have, what does that really mean to your business? So if I go through and I start with me too first, in terms of your business.
Thanks, Ben. For Alabar Enterprises, I think well-being is not just a fancy word. It definitely forms the bigger umbrella for our values, but it is something that is way of life for us. As you would all already know, that passion is the only differentiator for our business, and therefore passionate people are extremely, extremely dear to us. And well-being, I think, for passionate people comes from their thoughts, their actions, and their experiences. And therefore at Alabar Enterprises, every day and in every way that we can, we strive to help turn these thoughts, actions, and experiences, hoping that these could be some of the best that they have felt in their professional and personal lives. That's what it means for us. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. So now that we've started our panel giving a bit of an overview about wellbeing, I have opened up the questions option on Paul Ev. So again, if you do want to join paulev.com/ignitetrain999, you'll be able to post any questions there. If you like the sound of someone else's question, you can use the little up arrow on that and it'll upvote it. So we'll use that as a primary question. So thank you very much, Mintu. So I'm trying to think of another name beginning with M now for you, Melissa, but I'll just leave that with you. So what does it mean to Beirut as well-being?
I'm echoing basically what Mitu had just said. It's something we take pride of in terms of our employees, both professionally and personally. It's important that they have a comfortable working environment, and just making sure that we can offer support as and when. I think the key to promoting a healthy and working environment is key to good productivity. And it's something that is mainly second nature to everyone in Beirut. We aim to hire those that share the same values as well. And it's important that, you know, we kind of echoing importance of well-being throughout our days at home or in the office.
Okay, great. So we're seeing some of those key phrases coming through now, where we see improved productivity is a key part if we make sure that well-being is supported. So there's lots of evidence to suggest that when people are in a good state of well-being, then they are more productive. And opposite to that, you know, if they're not experiencing good well-being, then that has massive effects. We already know from global studies that nearly $1 trillion US is lost annually in all businesses globally to lack of productivity through poor mental health or not enough well-being initiatives put on in place in businesses. So it's extremely important that already we've got two good aspects that are coming through. Huda, if I just move over to you now, what is well-being to your business in Dubai Silicon Oasis?
So when we started the journey of well-being, which was 6 years ago, it started with the word work-life balance. So we used to know something called work-life balance, but at that moment we realized there is nothing called work-life balance. It's not when I'm at work, I won't think of my family or my financial issues, or when I'm at home, I won't think of work. So we introduced the Wheel of Life as part of well-being program. So the first question, I remember even management asked, what is in for organization when we're going to spend this much to teach people what is Wheel of Life or what is well-being and how they can take care of their well-being. So I told them it's productivity. When people will have a balanced Wheel of Life, they will be more productive at work. So it started all from then. Then even while convincing people, because many people was like, okay, why I have to do that, or why I need to do it, to go through it. So we told them, okay, you are spending lots of time and effort while budgeting for your department or while setting your strategic objective on yearly basis. So please just spend little more time on your personal objective when it comes to the components of Wheel of Life. Okay. So since then, yeah. So for us, it's like it's in every employee's DNA. I mean, when we were back in the offices, each employee have something called well-being passport. So in that passport, they can evaluate themselves on the Wheel of Life, and they can decide on which area they want to work on. As an HR, what we do provide a life coach who can support people to overcome some challenges.
Okay, nice. So good few initiatives there. Wellbeing wheel. We've got support coaches as well. So all right, nice little elements there. Thank you very much, Huda. And then Pramila, just to round us off.
Events people are very high octane, high energy, very passionate people in general. So we work hard, play hard. That's the mantra of the industry. So what we try to do is bring in work-life integration. We think that, you know, work-life balance is sometimes, it's hard. It's a bit of a tightrope, not always achievable. And I think that frustrates a lot of people. So we try to ensure that our employees have work-life integration. And through our wellness proposition, we look at various components of someone's life, whether it's their physical health, their mental or emotional health, and we also take into consideration someone's, you know, financial well-being as well, because we've come to realize over the years that, especially in this part of the world, finances can cause people a lot of stress, and so we've also looked at the financial aspect of people's lives and brought that into our well-being proposition.
Nice. So you're also including elements of well-being there that's taken in the financial aspects that people may be facing. Because it's funny that the financial element doesn't really fit into what we might class as the 3 pillars of well-being. You know, we have physical, we have mental, and we have social. Kind of finance, although it can have an impact on us mentally if we feel that we're not utilizing it effectively, not receiving enough of it to help us get by as we expect. But it can also have an impact on us physically, because we might buy lesser products for our food because we don't have enough to buy, you know, organic things and stuff like that. So managing people's finance can have a huge impact overall against the whole well-being. So it's really nice that you've taken on that element. So thank you very much that we've kind of tapped into a little bit about what well-being is for your businesses, and also a few initiatives that you're doing to kind of help with that. I'm just going to have a quick look at our questions just to see if there's anything directly related to that. I think a couple of questions are likely to fall into place a little bit later, but I have got one here to say, it says, how far can you actually push an employee to tell you if they're okay? So if we think about well-being generally, what kind of things do you think you can do to help an employee step forward? And how far can you actually go to push that? So I'll just open that up to anyone on the panel. Anyone want to give a suggestion for that?
Malcolm here. I think it just falls into the art of conversation. It's just having those touch points with employees. You know, what we do at Beirut is when someone joins, we make sure that we have regular catch-ups, and we have an open door policy. We roll out regular surveys, see how people are doing. You know, going on to maybe what we are doing now, we're having each HR representative is phoning every single employee on a weekly basis just to check in on them. You know, we kind of encourage people to talk. You know, some things are not visible, but obviously just making sure you've got that open door policy and you're approachable can encourage people to step forward. Or, you know, if you have an agreement with a life coach or someone that can support you further, then obviously you promote that in the workplace. So you can't force people to speak, but there are steps you can take to encourage people to be more open. And it's just, sometimes it's just a, hey, how you doing? That could open up a whole ton of conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And a life coach is a good step, because, well, what you're doing is you're creating an element of trust with someone. So if you do feel that what your well-being is impacted because you've built trust with that potential life coach, it's more likely for you to kind of open up. And again, that's one of the things that we do suggest, to have kind of buddies or someone within the business that people can go to with an element of confidentiality and discuss. And really careful with that word confidentiality, because even as a, you know, there's only so far that confidentiality can go. And if we feel that that person needs some support, we ourselves might not be the people that can do that. So we might need to then kind of take the next step and make sure, if that person needs a support, we can't directly, and we take the next step. So nice, interesting point there. Anyone else want to chip in? Or
yeah, I can add. I want to share our experience. So when we started the whole well-being program, when it comes to confidentiality, we faced this problem with people. There was like, we don't want to share our information. We don't want to tell you how I rate myself when it comes to my financial life or my physical life, or how well I'm doing with my family and friends. So it was very important to assure people that this information, it's only for them. It won't even be shared with us. So that was one thing. The other thing was, we need to, or what we did, it's to teach people the importance of doing this exercise. So they need to know in the beginning why they exist, what's the purpose of their life. If they have a clear purpose in their life, then they will be willing to invest time on their well-being. So that was an important step for us. So what we do to get information about people's well-being in our company, we run twice a year a survey. It's an anonymous survey where people will rate their We use 8 components of well-being, but mainly it falls under the physical, social, and mental. So they rate themselves where they stand when it comes to their well-being at the beginning of the year. So once we get the result, we use the result, we take the lowest areas and that and within that component, and we work on developing initiatives for that. So let's say, let's say for the last 3 years, physical fitness was the lowest in our organization. It's getting improved by the time, but it was one of the main component which was low. So we used to promote programs, we introduced initiatives to help people in order to enhance their physical life. So that was how we get information about people's well-being.
Okay, all right, a nice way to do that. Anonymity, I always say that is a great way to ensure that you get information in, and then you can just kind of act on what is kind of the biggest impact at the moment. And as you said, Huda, there, physical element was your lowest, and it's the next question that we've got on our agenda, so we'll kind of use that as a nice segue. So our next question is, like, how can physical well-being support an overall well-being plan? So if I start with Pramila this time, how do you think physical well-being can support your overall plan?
There's actually a lot that can be done. And for example, in the US, there are many businesses that incentivize their employees to be physically active.
Okay.
And the reason is that research has shown that physically active, healthy employees means there are less claims on your medical insurance policy, and therefore that reflects on your premium. So it is a win-win for both the employees who are healthier and in a business who has a more cost-effective premium. And I'd like to see something like that transition here as well to the Middle East, because we live very sedentary lifestyles here in the Middle East. So if we can encourage our employees in any way, and sometimes incentivizing people is the easiest way to go about it, then why not? To bring focus to the initiative.
Okay. Have you got any examples of what incentives are offered in the US to try and help some of the businesses here?
It can be anything from monetary incentives. So for every kind of for weight loss, for every pound or the employee loses, they earn some money. Okay. Or it could be through things like gift vouchers, rewards, etc. Okay. So anything that to just drive interest in the scheme, so both employees and the employer feel the benefit of it.
Great, thanks, Pramila. And just kind of touch base on that as well. If there's anyone watching who are thinking, oh well, yeah, it's all well and good saying, let me pay my employees to lose weight. Like, what's that going to get me? I'm giving out cost here. What am I going to get back? And what you will get back is some of that productivity and some of that drive.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to put a return on investment on that. And we often get asked that at Ignite from some of our clients to go, well, if you do this mental health training with my staff or this stress management, how am I to see a return on investment? And one of the first things that I ask is, well, are you measuring it now? Are you measuring your employees' productivity? Because what have I got to compare it to once I've done my training? And what some businesses find is that they're not actually looking at measuring their employees' productivity right now or how engaged they are. So one of the first things I'd suggest to anyone watching here is start doing something along those lines where you're seeing, how productive your staff might be, how engaged they feel. So use a kind of element out of Huda Step where you do an anonymous survey, try to understand where people are feeling, whether they do feel productive, so that they're not targeted. And then after you've initiated some training, such as what we might, or what Pramila said about offering some money back for weight loss, you will see some difference on that. So thank you very much, Pramila. Melissa.
Sorry. Yeah, I think, again, just echoing what Pramila has said as well, I think a healthy workforce, you have more engaged people, your productivity increases. Again, by following certain incentives also reduces absenteeism as well. So in terms of measuring productivity, one thing you could also measure is absence. If that reduces, then you're obviously on the right track.
Yeah, great. And a very interesting thing that is being looked into now is it's not just absenteeism, which we can put a cost on when we know someone's not here. We know that they're not being productive. Other people might have to take on that work. So are they potentially impacted their well-being because they're taking on more work? But also presenteeism is a key thing that's being looked at now as well. So that gets back to that productivity. You know, if myself, Ben, if I'm sat in my chair today, am I actually being productive? Is my mind thinking about many things going on? And I'm actually getting the work done that I would usually get done because I'm not feeling motivated or my well-being is not in the best place. So yeah, alongside absenteeism is also looking at presenteeism. So are your workers actually present doing the work, or are their minds elsewhere? Great, thank you very much. Me too.
Yeah, I think physical well-being is the foundation to every other kind of well-being. A fit body equals to a fit mind, and when employees have fit minds, they are in a space to have greater immune systems and generally absorb every other kind of adverse situation in a better way than they can if they are not physically fit. Yes, absenteeism, presenteeism, the loss in terms of productivity is all are all great metrics to be looking at these. But then again, when we talk about physical fitness, it not only has to do with your body but also with your mind. So making people mindful, I think mindfulness is a great initiative that some of us can be taking, and who those of us who have not even started can be thinking on these lines, because that's what gets employees to be conscious of their surroundings and being present even when they are at work. As you said, Ben, presenteeism is a very big thing nowadays, because even if you're at work, are you really at work? And what kind of productivity levels are you reaching at?
Okay.
Even if we see regionally, I mean, in Dubai itself, Dubai 30-30 challenge, the fitness challenge is a great way for people who don't actually want cost reduction or cost saving initiatives, but still want to provide the fitness side to their employees. It's a great way to kickstart any kind of fitness challenges that you have and get the team together.
All right, excellent. And that's a nice one as well about getting the team together. And we're probably facing that difficulty now where we're only just starting to get a little bit of our workforce back into the workplace. We've still got to observe elements of what we call social distancing. Just before I kind of segue into our next question, which is going to fall into that, Huda, is there anything else that you want to add about physical? Because I know you gave a good few points there.
Just a couple of initiatives which we have introduced when it comes to physical component, what we do in Dubai Silicon Oasis. So yes, we do participate when it comes to fitness challenge. We encourage employees to do that. But other than that, we tried the losing weight concept, but then we realized that it wasn't the right way to do it, because people might lose weight by just going on diet on a wrong one in order to be the winner. So yeah, that did not work very well for us the first year. Then we decided to change our concept to educate people what does mean fitness or physical well-being. So we started with doing a couple of initiatives throughout the year. So yes, we will have a physical activities where people can go play some sort of sports together as a team members within organization. But on the other hand, we have educational sessions where people can join to learn about healthy eating sessions, or what small physical activities they can do while they are working or while they are at home. And the third thing, which was very important for us, it was the checkups. So we do a regular health checkups throughout the year. We provide it within in the premises when we used to be in the office. So people can come and do a regular health checkup to just maintain their Yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you very much for just kind of closing us off there. I'm not going to touch base on any questions from the audience just on this one, but I will come back to that shortly, because there are a few that we can kind of cover over towards the end. But as Mitu just kind of mentioned about the elements of physical well-being can be extremely important, and it's something that is done very, very well over here in Dubai. There is so many different physical elements that people participate in. We've got Dubai marathons, we've got other runs that go on, we've got the spinnies, I can't remember, is it 92? I always forget what number it is. So there's lots of kind of physical stuff that we can do, and we're in an environment now where it does kind of implement elements of what everyone is referring to as social distancing. I'm not a particular fan of that phrasing, because it's more important for us to be physically distant. We still need to connect with people. So the next question I'm going to ask to the panel is, what social wellbeing initiatives can be implemented even when we've got to implement something like social distancing? So Melissa, I'm going to come to you first for this one.
Well, there's many good apps on the market now, which you can use in the comfort of your own home. Board games, we've encouraged people to have some time out at home and have some board games. Structure, so it's important to have structure in the day. We obviously, there's Ignite. They've got a couple of training modules I might want to recommend. So I think some of these small measures just do make a high impact. We've encouraged people to get onto the Body Coach. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with him, but he has his own online free YouTube session every day at 9 a.m. UK time. So it's just encouraging people to look at what is available on the web to use, which are quite beneficial. Even for myself, I found them quite useful. So I normally share my own personal experiences that have helped amongst our team.
All right, brilliant. And that's the key element that you've just kind of touched on there, Melissa, is about sharing those experiences with team members, because we might think, well, yeah, Melissa said a few things there that are like, play games, but that's it with our families. But then that's not to say that you can't then communicate with your team members, say, I played this game with my family at the weekend, it was really good, we did this, we did that. And then that might then encourage that family to buy that game and then use that as a way of connecting with their own family. So sharing those practices is what's key to still being socially present in these times where we have to be physically distant. So make sure that there is that connection that people have. Huda, if I just come over to you next, is there any other social initiatives that you think can be done?
To start with, what we tried to do when we started working remotely, we wanted first to maintain our social relationship with our colleagues. Yes, I know it's important to keep the social aspect, the family and friend part, but for us was not to lose the relationship within our within the organization. So what happened that yes, everyone does contact with each other, but it's work related. So I might see my colleagues, but it's work related. So we started with throwing the first initiative. We call it al-Majlis. Al-Majlis, we used to do it even when we were back in the office, but we did virtual al-Majlis. I believe the majority who are living in UAE, they know what does it mean, al-Majlis. Al-Majlis, it's like the family sitting area or the guest sitting area. So we have this al-Majlis initiative where we call people just to socialize, to know what challenges they are facing and how we can support. So we did the virtual al-Majlis to ask people if they have any challenges while working remotely and what as an HR we can do to socially support them. So as an outcome of that al-Majlis, we have introduced a Thursday casual meetings. So each department, they meet every Thursday for half an hour just to chat, catch up, know about each other, share experience. Maybe we won't talk a lot about board games. We talk about more which apps is delivering supermarket faster than the other apps nowadays.
It's important.
Yes. So yeah, so mainly we're trying that. We introduced a couple of fun quizzes just to keep the company engaged with each other. We we are using Teams, not Zoom. So we promote Teams for the organization that yes, you can use Team even with your family members and friends. Many people, they didn't know that they can use it by just sending the link. They thought everyone should have an account to go to the Teams. So we told them, no, you can't get in touch with family members, just share the link and you can use it. So yeah, mainly that's what we have did so far virtually.
Great, brilliant. And there's some really good things there, Huda, about utilizing the content that we have within our workplace to still have contact with our family that might not necessarily be here in the UAE. So it's really important to keep those connections as well to our family that are overseas. And yeah, you can use most applications to reach the outside. They don't need to. So even Zoom, you can utilize on a web browser rather than downloading the app. Like you said, Microsoft Teams can just be accessed by a link. So there's lots of many apps that people can utilize just to stay connected. But utilizing your work one is obviously a lot easier for you. Me too.
I think we are in the era of social distancing. It is a right, and it's here to stay. So for us, our entire social well-being initiatives have moved online. I'd love to call it the AAE Zoom era, as we all say now. So as a business, we've implemented and advised on a lot of initiatives, some being regular team catch-ups and online team building initiatives. We have about 18 to 20 stores, and we catch up store-wise every day, probably 2 stores. So on a weekly basis, we are in touch with them. So we get onto a Zoom call, all 50, 60 of us, and play some games, just keep them engaged, people sitting at home getting bored. Other than that, we've done leadership happy hours. Yes, that's sometimes very, very necessary. And we've also done group learning sessions wherein we've streamed some free courses through the Zoom portal and gotten about 100 odd employees to come do a course on customer service and improving customer service, and then take on an additional own touch of Alabar, saying that we do a group project or we do a quiz. We've also done movie time with friends, connecting with families across borders. A lot of our employees are stuck out of the country, so it's very important for us to keep them engaged and updated on what's going on. Well, we've even had a virtual DJ session. So yeah, our social and well-being initiatives have all gone virtual now. Yeah. On the floor, I think innovative greeting methods, connecting more through body language. These are the kinds of things that helps us keep the social element in place and yet socially distanced.
All right, nice, great, yeah.
Sorry, can I just add, one thing which we have done is we've had regular town hall meetings. So our CEO has actually hosted live webinars for Q&As for him. We've also released different products, obviously aside from well-being, but it's important that it's not just the manager or a colleague checking in, it's our CEO actually has those touch points as well.
Yeah, definitely. The higher up this kind of support comes from, the more meaningful it seems to colleagues. So as much as it's really easy for us to have these contacts with our manager because it's quite regular, getting contact from your manager's manager or even higher up all the way up to the CEO is still a nice touch that adds that value. And again, it's that element of motivation that people might need, that the CEO does value spending time with connecting with them. So yeah, nice point there, Melissa. Pramila, anything to round us off?
We've also experimented with quite a few things internally. We run weekly competitions on Slack that we use as an internal communication tool. We pick a theme each week, something like work from home buddies, Colleagues then post pictures, and we all kind of get together and vote for the one we like the most. Online quizzes are quite popular. We're going to try and do work from home bingo for the first time later this week. So excited about that. Our CEO does weekly vlogs just to stay connected with everyone. And a colleague in the UK who's a certified yoga instructor ran an online yoga class. So we're experimenting. Some are more popular than others, but it's worth a shot. So yeah, that's what we've been up to so far.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone, for adding into that. Hopefully we've got some good ideas there that can still get us involved socially without having to be physically close to one another. I'm just going to visit one of the questions on the group because it seems to have quite a number of upvotes. So people want to know about this. So again, I'll just open it up to you. I don't know whether you just want to put your hand up if you feel comfortable answering. What's been your biggest challenge in the last 4 to 5 weeks with COVID-19 happening? Go on, Pramila, I just saw your hand just about beat Huda's there.
I think it's trying to keep in touch with everyone out there. You know, it's one thing when you see colleagues every single day, face to face. You bump into someone in the pantry or in the corridor, and you're able to have that little bit of a connection with them and go, "How are you?" I think "How are you?" is turning out to be the most powerful question at this time. It's a simple question, but it can really open up an engaging conversation, and you can get an understanding of where people are at. So it's trying to remain connected, encouraging our managers, in addition to say their daily huddles, to also have one-on-one conversations with their teams, and to ask them how people are doing, because we're realizing that different people are coping and responding to this time differently.
Yes.
So it's trying to be able to have a visibility to make sure that everyone is okay and coping, rather than being invisible at this point in some way, because we're all remote and losing sight of someone who might need that little extra bit of support.
Definitely. And what's really good is you've used a really good word there about being invisible. And it's whether someone can feel that way, that they feel invisible, or they're potentially making themselves invisible. So being on something like this, you know, if your company is trying to keep people engaged like this and you don't necessarily have your webcam on, or you're not really engaging in that conversation, those people that are engaging forget about you. That makes you invisible because you're not openly participating. And that might be difficult for some people because they don't always want to speak up. But this is an opportunity where once you have kind of taken that little bit of a leap and just said something, spoken up that little bit more, the aftermath of that, the way you'll feel from getting some of that engagement will lift your spirits and will improve your kind of mental well-being as well as social well-being. So yeah, key points. Huda, you just had a point then as well. Do you want to just add it?
Actually, it's almost the same point. It's people, they feel they are isolated. It's not only they are working from home. I believe with the restriction of moving for the last 3 weeks, people just suddenly locking down people within their houses, they felt somehow depressed. So what we have done, it's as I mentioned, it's a new thing. It's even a new skills for us to learn how to engage people during the whole social distance concept. Okay. So we are working on training online managers on how they can, because to engage or disengage your people, it's always the line manager who can do that. He's the one who is always in touch with his employees. So it's next week we are training online manager to learn this new skills of how they can engage their people even while working remotely, and even how to distribute tasks fairly, because we do measure productivity on weekly basis, and we realize that it's by nature that we always give the task for who can finish it for us first, but it's a time that there are people who are not doing anything, and there are people who are really working extra today. So we are teaching now, even as working remotely, how you can distribute, monitor people's performance, and how you can be close and engage with them.
Okay. All right, nice. Well, in the interest of time, I'm just going to move on to our kind of final question, then we'll open it out to the ones that are being asked on Paul Evan in the group. Melissa, I know you've got to leave us at 11, and then we've got up till 11:15 for some of our other panels. So I'll kind of do this question and let you kind of answer around second, Melissa. So moving on to our last pillar of well-being is the mental well-being. And we've touched on little elements of it, that what can improve mental well-being by being more physically active, by connecting with others, they can certainly help. But whose responsibility is it ultimately to ensure that mental well-being is initiated in the workplace, and what kind of things can be done to help that? I forgot who's left to go first. Who hasn't gone first yet? Is it me too?
Yeah, sure. I'll go again. While many of us would say, I think it's an individual's responsibility to have a mental, they're taking care of their own well-being mentally. But I think in a place such as Dubai or in the UAE, which is a melting pot of cultures and people are away from their families, it is definitely a shared responsibility between the employee and the employer for the mental well-being. Whether it is people are spending the longest hours of their days at work, and we better make it worthwhile. Those hours are what's going to count. And creating I think culture of an organization is such an important point to talk of when we talk about mental well-being. Creating a culture of trust goes a long way in helping employees develop their mental well-being. There was a question as to how do we push employees to come up with talking about their own mental well-being. I think there should be no need to push anybody. Your culture should be one of trust, and that will automatically spark employees to come and talk to you about their mental well-being. So yes, definitely a shared responsibility, more so being with the employer.
Definitely. Do you know what, you kind of position that beautifully, me too, about yes, it is shared responsibility, but it's purely about building trust. Your employees should feel comfortable with coming forward and not feel that by coming forward and expressing how their mental well-being might be, and then being kind of attacked, discriminated because of that. We should all be looking to support, and by creating a culture of trust and by creating a culture within your business that shows what can happen if someone comes forward and says those things, you know, how they will be supported, what plans might go in place, is that key way to making sure that that stigma doesn't exist within the workplace, where people don't want to come forward because of those negative connotations that used to be present with mental health. So thank you very much for that, Me Too. It was a great one. Melissa, because I know you potentially need to go, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I've just got one thing I'd like to say. Personally, I don't think anyone is solely responsible. I think everyone, it's important for everyone to look out for the welfare of others. I think there's a simple hashtag that probably came to light about 2 months ago, hashtag Be Kind, simple and effective. And I think it should be more widely used. All
right, nice. So, focusing on the fact that everyone is in this situation together, you know, we keep hearing that everyone's in this together. It's really important now for us to, yes, be kind and understand that people, I can't remember who said it earlier, that everyone is experiencing this in a different way. Everyone is being impacted in a different way. And it's really important for us to not just think that the way in which we're experiencing this situation is the same that everyone else is. You know, everyone's got a different perception, everyone's got a different view on this. So it's really important for us to understand what that impact might be. So yes, kind of take a leaf out of the kind of hashtag Be Kind, and just remember that other people are experiencing this differently. Thank you very much, Melissa. Huda.
Like my colleagues, they just mentioned, it's everyone's responsibility. But yes, as an HR, we can provide the platform. We can provide the tools that helps them to work on their mental well-being. So yes, that's mainly, and we can provide coaches, we can provide courses, we can provide the social support they require, but then it's self-driven thing. If they want to do it, they will do it.
Okay, great, brilliant. So it is important, you know, if they want to do it, but sometimes it's making sure that they're aware of what those support mechanisms might be in order to support them. Because, you know, I a couple of companies where as soon as I've walked in, I've gone, right, what support do you offer? And people, oh, I don't really know. And I've had to kind of look into the details of the company to find out, well, you actually do this, you know, did you know that this website exists on your intranet that tells you all these support mechanisms that you can use? Do you know that you have an employee assistance program that you can call 24/7 that's confidential? So there's key things like that that might pop out, and it's making sure that they are marketed within your company so that people know that they exist and there is somewhere that they can go to help. So whether it is a coach, whether it's a page on the intranet that gives them those tools, whether it's a Facebook group that's private in your business, or whether it's a Microsoft Teams channel, whatever that might be, it's important for those to be broadcasted to your employees. So yeah, great. Pramila?
I agree with the ladies. I truly believe that mental health is a communal approach. So it's not just HR, it's not just the line manager, it's HR, the line manager, and even the employees' peers. You know, it's a community approach to help someone, support someone if they are struggling with something in their life, to remove any stigma attached to being able to be open about a particular struggle they're facing in their life. And employee assistance programs are a great way to do that, because sometimes people want to talk to someone who is anonymous, and they feel they are more comfortable opening up. So to have that mechanism available internally for employees to kind of use if they need to.
Great, thank you. And just to tie into that, we've got a question on the Paul Everywhere group about programs saying, do your companies use them, and are they being used more or less in the current situation? So anyone who does have EAPs in their business. Okay.
Sorry. I was going to say we do have an EAP in the business that is on offer, but part of the EAP arrangement is that the provider does not share details with us in terms of usage, etc., to maintain confidentiality around the subject.
All right, interesting, yeah. And that's a key aspect of some EAPs, you know, sometimes they're ultimately completely confidential, but some of them might just provide statistics so that the business is aware of what they might need to do and to support. So that's interesting to know, Pramila, about the level of confidentiality that an EAP might adopt. So nice point there. Okay, well, that's kind of covered off our key questions. I'm just going to do, I'm just going to mute there. I'm just going to show some of the other questions that are visible on our poll everywhere, so that we can potentially answer some of those now that we have a bit of extra time. So, oh, sorry, clicking the wrong buttons. So this will just take a moment, and I'll just double check that everything is going okay on my phone as well. Okay, so yeah, we've got the EAP one, which we've just kind of answered. Oh, we've got a few. Oh, that's nice. But upvoting Ignites. So how can Ignite support us with other people's mental well-being? So great question. We have a couple of key sessions that we're offering now, especially with social distancing in place. So we have to do things virtually. So we've got a stress management course that is available. I'll show you some of those later. And a mental health overview course as well. Just gives a basic understanding of some of the key common mental health conditions and what people can do to help themselves and support others a little bit around those concepts. If you do want to see any of those sessions, our YouTube channel, please subscribe so that you'll get some of our future seminars as well. So this session itself will go on our YouTube channel so that you can tell anyone else to watch it back if you want. So do subscribe so you'll get some of our other updates as well. And you'll get a taster of our stress management and mental health overview course, which will both certainly help you.
And the questions aren't on the screen.
Sorry, Ben?
Questions aren't on the screen. We can't see
Right, let me change that then. Thanks for letting me know. I will use the other share screen, as it always does this. Once this refreshes, hopefully it'll be visible to all then. There we go. Is that better, Ben?
Yeah, that's good.
Great. Excellent. Okay, so we answered the how can Ignite support us as well. How far can you push? What did you find the best strategy during the lockdown to ensure the well-being of your employees? Okay, I can't see videos because I've gone full screen on this. So anyone wish to say what your best initiative has been during the current crisis? Yeah, me too.
I think what we did, we came to know that it's extremely important for us to get in touch with the employees, keep in touch with them on a continual basis, because the past few weeks have been such unprecedented times. Providing direction to the team had become our huge challenge, a huge challenge. I mean, something that you yourself didn't know. How are you going to tell and how are you going to communicate that across to your teams? So what we tried to do instead, stay in touch with them and actually connect with them on grassroots levels. So we started connecting with them on every single point, as in, what are you doing right now? What are you doing to keep yourself busy? What do you want to learn? We started with the simpler stuff and then moved on to some learning, some fitness, and keeping in touch with them, I think, is key. The best strategy that anyone could use.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I definitely say communication is key. One thing which we have done is when people join our company, we have a get to know you form they fill in. It could just be like, how do they like their coffee or tea in the morning? So we normally give that to them on their first day. And then we also ask what their hobbies are. So we have that data. So when we make those calls, it's just like, okay, they like reading. What books have you been reading? You love Netflix. What did you like last year on Netflix? Do you recommend it? So it's just, you've got personal information which you can ask them, which isn't sensitive. It just makes them feel more comfortable, and you actually are getting to know them as a person as well. We've got over 200 people, so it's important that when you make those calls, the conversations are relevant and they are engaging. It is about, hi, how are you? But it's obviously taking that call a little bit further.
Definitely. It's extremely important that, we're so comfortable with just asking people and just going, oh, how are you? Yeah, I'm okay. How are you? And it's just like a bit of a kind of simple exchange. But when we actually take a moment, we at Ignite, and I've seen it on a few other mental health programs as well, is about asking twice and just going, no, to really tell me how you are. And once people are kind of given that question again, they actually think about giving a more valid response, and you're more likely to get some actual content from them that you can work with and see, do I need to do anything different to help you as a colleague, as a manager? And again, just asking twice does kind of give a little bit of extra support. But yeah, we've got two elements there about communication being key. So excellent for sharing that. I'm just going to have a quick look at some other questions just to help us get through some of these, and then we've got what was
we'll put one of the questions to the panel because I personally find it pretty interesting. Ladies, one of the questions that was asked was, do any of the panel have any data that shows their wellbeing program is impacting engagement or even productivity or financial results? Huda, over to you.
Yeah, we do. We do link engagement and well-being impact on employees' productivity, then the company revenue as well. We have doing this for the last at least 3 years. Because I told you when we started the whole concept, the first question management asked me what's in for the organization. So I had to show them what's in for the organization by at least after a couple of years. So yes, we do have the data. I can't share it right now, but but there is a way of linking all of this together.
Okay, and what would you say to companies that do have that? What would you say to companies that have that struggle where management say, okay, great, mental, great. How am I going to get money back? what would you say to those companies that have that challenge at the moment?
As I mentioned, what we did in the beginning was, okay, fine, I need this much to spend in order to get the most out of people. So what I will advise everyone, it's a change. People, they don't accept change very easily. So you need to be very strong. They will resist, but you have to continue working on that. And yes, one day you can prove it to them. It's just you need to collect the data that before implementing engagement and well-being activity and after, what was the change in productivity and company revenue. They will come again and debate that not necessary, it's a direct link, but you can always say there is nothing called not necessary direct link. There is always indirect link to productivity, because of people, if people was not engaged or have a balanced wheel of life, they will never be this much productive and we will never make that much revenue.
Cool, thank you. Because I know it's a common question that's asked even when we go to events, that people say, look, I love mental, I love the whole idea of well-being, but the big challenge my manager asks me is, when am I going to make some money back?
I just give one example always when I go through this argument. So let's say we don't believe in well-being. Okay, I'm Huda, I'm working, but I do have a financial problem. Or I do have, let's say, a physical problem. I'm physically not well to work. So I will come to work, I will do whatever it's required. But that extra which Huda can give if physically was fit won't be there. So they need to understand that all these elements, it's Huda, it's my package. If the whole package is balanced, I can be the best when it comes to productivity.
Excellent, great. And anyone else about any data that your company has and how you utilize it? No? Okay, I'm going to move on to another question. I'm just going to read these off now because I'm sharing my full screen. We've got one about managers. So let me just move over to my other element to see it. I started assigning a list of which order I'd do it in, and then I turned it off, so just bear with me. How can I communicate my well-being needs with my very pragmatic micromanager? Anyone, any thoughts on that? So being micromanaged, pragmatic, how can I share my well-being thoughts with a manager like that? All right, well, I'll start a little bit just to get, what I'd probably say is be aware that not everyone is comfortable having these conversations themselves. So as much as there is the expectation that managers should be able to support people in this way, they might not have the skills they need. And again, not to push Ignite too much, but that's what we're here for. Like we identified that in the market there's not that ability to communicate in that way. We get so much training on customer service, managing our own time or things like that, but we don't get much support in saying, how do I actually speak to people who are experiencing difficulties? How do I put aside what my normal preference is for the way in which I behave? So if it is someone who's very micromanager, they're probably thinking too much in the detail and they're not too focused on you as a person, because they usually focus more on the job or the task. So they might need some support themselves. And what I'd probably say is give some feedback to your manager about how that is impacting you. So maybe just say to them, look, there is some information that I'd like to share with you. However, I sometimes get the impression that this is how you react to these situations. Give examples of previous situations where you've tried to open up and how that's made you feel. And by giving that perspective to your manager about how it makes you feel, it's very difficult for them to reject that element of feedback, because they can't come back to you and go, it doesn't make you feel like that, because it's your feeling. they can say, I didn't mean to make you feel that way, or, you know, that's not why I do those things. Be aware that certain behaviors may come out of that because people react differently to feedback. But again, just say, look, I'm not trying to push anything bad here. I'm just trying to make us have a better communication method between the two of us. This is how I felt previously. I'd like to feel differently. What can we do together to make sure that we feel comfortable having these conversations? And that is potentially something that you can do. But ultimately be aware that they might not have that skill set to be able to handle those conversations. So where possible, try and speak to someone else in the business. So at least you're having a conversation with someone. Don't think that it's only your manager. But if it is direct work-related issues, then you might need to have that more difficult conversation with your manager. I can't remember who said it again. I think it was Me Too, I think, said it's all about trust. And if that trust isn't there with your manager, then that's what's going to make it difficult. So you need to work on building that as well.
I'd also point out that selecting a good time to have that conversation, not necessarily going in when that person is having those emotions, that's probably not the good time to speak to their line manager. But maybe it's just kind of thinking, when is the best time to have that conversation? Is it in their self-assessment? Is it taking them out for a coffee, or, you know, to the side, just say, look, this has been bothering me, can I discuss it with you? Maybe just removing it from the office environment or in front of a desk, just kind of making the situation a bit more comfortable.
We go through a bit of a phasing of when you're having difficult conversations with someone, what steps do you need to take? And one of the first steps that we talk about is setting the scene. So making sure that you're both in a place where the conversation is going to be productive. So if one person is overwhelmed with information, jobs, tasks, that's not the right time. Is it right to have it in their office? Obviously not so much now, but, you know, what is the best situation that you can have that in? Is it about when you can go for a coffee? Is it about just scheduling a meeting that's maybe just outside of work time, so that you know that they're not going to get distracted with other things coming in? Because if it is really important for you to sort your well-being, then you might need to kind of help that issue, where you say, you know, I want to remove all elements of what's going on in work. I don't want you to be distracted. My well-being is more important, so I might do a little bit of extra work after work time, or when I'm expected to, in order to help me. So even if it's about scheduling something outside of work time, a Zoom call, a Microsoft Teams, whatever it might be, that's likely to help the situation because it's a little bit more neutral. Anything else from anyone about that? No. Okay, I'm just gonna go back to my screen again, just to share maybe one more question before we finish. So I'll just wait for this to refresh and see what our maybe last question is. Ben, do we have any other questions that have come through on the chat that might be useful?
Yeah, there was one kind of directed to you, which says, what are your thoughts on the well-being / mental health fallout? What do you think, what are your thoughts on the fallout as a result of the challenging times we're at the moment, i.e. COVID-19?
The fallout. I think there's going to be probably a few different elements from my perspective. So I think that businesses are probably going to be a little bit more aware that people can function working from home. So there should be some element of flexible working hours that should come into play that might not have been too existent over here in the past. So I think what tended to happen was that companies were like, you know, you can't do your job from home or anything. I think this has gone some way to show that people can do their jobs from home and are still productive. So I think that's one element. I think once we move to a situation where people are more freely comfortable moving around, my thoughts are that people are probably going to be more thankful for these types of ability to go out freely and stuff like that. But now that we've been confined into our houses, flats, apartments, whatever it might be, it's made us a little bit more appreciative for everything that goes on around us. So I think we might find ourselves in a bit more of a positive aspect. To look at potentially some negative fallouts, we might be looking at people with potential difficulty with anxiety. Some people may have got used to staying at home, and returning back to work could be difficult. So from an employer's perspective, I'd probably start looking at what are you doing to ease people back into the business. You know, we're already starting to look at a 30% return to workforce. So those 30% are probably in that situation now where they might be thankful for getting back into work and being away from the home, or they might have got used to that. So as an employer, look out for some of those aspects that you might see. Are your employees fully engaged? Do you still need to have those conversations? Just because we went into this environment where we were trying to communicate with people virtually, that doesn't mean that those conversations don't stop. You need to stay on top of that, and you need to keep speaking to your employees to check how they are in their overall well-being, because some people might be feeling great about the transition, some people might not, and again, it's up to you to check that out as an employer.
I suppose that could relate on to kind of a last question nicely, I think, because you mentioned about going back to work. Like, I suppose it could go to the panel, but like, how do people balance hosting internal wellness activities and people attending these sessions, especially when they're busy working? And I'm touching on Ben's point where we're in the process now of slowly getting back into the office. What advice could our panel give on how you balance hosting these sorts of activities and touching upon some of the challenges that Ben just mentioned, especially when everything's going to be full steam ahead?
I think one of the positive fallouts of the current situation is going to be that people are going to want to connect with each other more face to face. People miss that, you know, we all miss that. We're all social animals at the end of the day. So I think people will want opportunities to be able to connect with each other socially within the work environment. So we should spend and put some effort into arranging activities. Continue with the virtual stuff because it'll only be 30% of your workforce in the office at any time, but also try and arrange small interactions for people during office time within the office, keeping in mind, of course, physical distancing. It's going to be a bit of a struggle, but I think definitely up for the challenge.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Any closing remarks?
Hashtag be kind.
Thanks for that, Melissa. Yeah, definitely. Hashtag be kind. Definitely do that. If you've got any other hashtags, there's a few there. So yeah, what I'd like to do is just invite anyone who's still on Poll Everywhere to just offer any feedback. So I've made that active now. Just say what you enjoyed about the panel today, what you would like to see differently. So please do attend that. Thank you very much to our panel for being here, giving your thoughts and your really great initiatives that you're doing in your own businesses. So hopefully that's given some people on the call some food for thought so that they can do some things within their business. If you've attended this webinar and you're not someone who thinks they've got control of some of those mechanisms within a business, then go to those people who are responsible and tell them that you've attended this webinar, for example, or what you've seen online, what you've heard other businesses are doing, and suggest those things. You know, if we just sit here and we expect people to do things for us, it's not always going to happen. So it's extremely important for you to take some action yourself if you want to see things changing. So
can I just say one thing? If anyone on this course is actually struggling themselves and need to talk to someone, then Russell or anyone from Ignite can share my number. Again, we're all going through it. Everyone faces things in different ways. If anyone is struggling themselves, then open up. We're here to support you.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you very much for that, Melissa. It's really nice to open that up so widely, to just go, you know, anyone can get in touch, and that's what's key. You know, we are here to connect. We are here to show what we can do, and if we're not here to say, you know, yeah, reach out to me, then what's the point? You know, we don't want to be isolated. We don't want to be invisible. Okay, so just to show you one last thing as we're about to leave. If you are interested in any other courses, I did say show you what we are offering. So here's our mental health stress management course. We've also got a few other courses on our list there. So they are separated into different webinars. So they're around 90 minutes each, maybe up to 2 hours with a break. And we usually run 3 of those, but we also use our interactive learning tool, Practify, to set small assignments within those sessions. So it's not just attending webinars, it's also doing a bit of work in the background as well. So feel free to get in touch with us if you're interested in any of those courses. And then if you are interested in any of our other 3 webinars, do have a quick check on some of these. They are available to sign up on our LinkedIn page. So we've got an isolation quiz at the end of the week. So referring back to some of the thing that the guy said, you know, doing a quiz is a good way. So we're doing that this Thursday, 4 till 6. We've got coaching conversations, tactical selling happening next week. And then in just under 2 weeks' time, we've got problem solving and decision making in a 2-part series. So feel free to sign up to any of those if you wish. Do sign up to our YouTube channel as well, so you can get those as a recorded version if you're unable to make any of them. And once again, thank you very much for everyone who attended today. Thank you to our panel for being on for this length of time. And as always, be kind, stay safe. As Russell always says, keep washing your hands, and let's keep looking after each other. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, panel. Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.